I call Phil Twyford. 5
Thank you,
minutes.
Mr. Speaker. Members of the public are often a bit disbelieving when you tell them that in Parliament here often the opposition will vote for government bills. They think that because they see the contest of ideas in question time that it's always about conflict and we always disagree. But, you know, on this side of the House, we take our role as legislators seriously, and when a bill even has some very small marginal increase in well-being of the general population, we feel compelled to vote for it. It might not be perfect, might not have the kind of ambition that we do, but even if it offers some very incremental gain, we vote for it. But, Mr. Speaker, it's so depressing and dreary to be in this House, debate after debate, bill after bill, voting for completely inadequate legislation. And this is yet another example of a bill that is, you know, at first blush, a mixed bag, to say the least. It's got some good parts in it, which I will touch on, but others we've got serious misgivings about. This bill illustrates, I think, the fact that in National's parallel universe, not only is there no housing crisis and the economy is doing fine, but this bill will end zero contracts. Because that's what Michael Woodhouse promised. That's right. He went on TV and said he was going to end zero contracts because they're unconscionable. But actually, what we find, looking at this bill, sir, is that the effect of it is that it simply just creates a new set of rules for zero contracts. They're not abolishing them, they're not getting rid of them, they are simply regularising them or legalising them. And there was one very telling part in the regulatory impact assessment that I want to refer to, and that is that there's a discussion in the regulatory impact statement about how MB prepared the first version of it, and then when Treasury got hold of it, and I'm sure also the clammy hand of the Minister can be seen in this as well, sir, MB had initially considered the option of a general ban on unconscionable practices, that is, zero contracts. But this was deemed that it might have unintended consequences. And for the National Party, actually putting a stop to zero contracts would have been considered to be a very undesirable and unintended consequence. Because this bill, what this bill is it's the National Party's idea of a win-win, you see. What they want to do is polish the idea that they are listening to public opinion, which was clearly outraged by zero contracts and these incredibly exploitative situations that many workers found themselves in. So the government wants to polish up this notion that it's a moderate centrist government that listens to public opinion, but at the same time, what it wants to do is pursue that most precious of National Party goals, pushing down labour costs, undermining the rights of workers and weakening collective bargaining. And that's what the provisions in here, not only on zero contracts, but some of the other issues that I want to mention shortly, that's what they do. They weaken the position of workers in the workplace. Let's talk a little bit more about zero contracts, because zero-hour contracts. What the bill seeks to do, sir, is address this in a couple of ways. First, it says that an individual employment contract is only required to contain an indication of the arrangements that relate to the times that an employee has to be available to work. That provides little, if any, protection at all. Under the bill, if the employer requires the worker to be available for work beyond their contracted hours, then they have to put an availability clause in the employment agreement. And the availability clause must include some compensation for being available to work. It doesn't say how much, and as previous speakers have said in this debate, that could be a minuscule amount, a symbolic amount. It could mean that the amount is rolled up into a salary. It actually makes matters worse. At the moment, the legal position of zero contracts is highly dubious. The courts do not look kindly on them. This bill will institutionalise them, and that is the big concern that we have.
I call Sarah Dowie.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And despite what the member